Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Michelle Berg, Deputy General Secretary of Rotary International and a member of the Rotary Club of Evanston. It's a pleasure to be here with you to host this month's virtual speaker series session, In the Name of Peace, Conversations with Rotary Peace Fellows. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I invite each of you now to share your name and where you're joining us from in the chat box. A few logistics before we get started. Today's session will be held in English and simultaneous interpretation is available in Japanese, Korean, Mandarin, Portuguese, and Spanish. To enable interpretation, please select your preferred language using the globe icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. This session also offers computer-generated closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, please select the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And finally, there will be time at the end of the session today for questions and answers. So I encourage you to use the Q&A function to send in your questions for our panelists. Now, on to our topic for today. From helping to charter the United Nations to carrying out global humanitarian work in communities where it is needed most, Rotary's peace-building roots run deep. The Rotary Peace Centers are the result of that rich history. Through these centers, we are investing in peace-building professionals to equip them with the knowledge, skills, tools, and experience they need to solve problems and scale solutions. It's through this investment today that we hope to have a more peaceful tomorrow. February is Peace Building and Conflict Prevention Month, and as it comes to an end, we have much to celebrate. We are celebrating 2 decades since the graduation of our inaugural class of Peace Fellows, and we can celebrate incredible progress toward establishing our newest Peace Center in the Middle East and North Africa region. To mark this moment, today we've invited donors with a philanthropic passion for peace and the Rotary Peace Fellows funded by their gifts here for an intimate conversation about the work they're doing to inspire hope in their communities and affect lasting progress towards peace. So let's start with some introductions first. Panelists, as I introduce each of you, I'll invite you to draw from your personal and professional experience to share what you believe is the most important tool or skill for a peace builder to have. And also for those in the audience, please join in and share in the chat what you believe are some critical tools or skills for peace. So first, let me welcome Sharon Heinrich. Sharon joined Rotary in 2008 and is currently a member of the Rotary Club of Gastonia, North Carolina. Sharon and her family have supported the Rotary Peace Center at Duke UNC, and she joins us today as a representative of her family's Heinrich Family Foundation, which has funded 12 Peace Fellows over the years, and another 2 are in progress. So Sharon, welcome. What would you say is the most important skill for an effective peace builder? Oh, I don't think we can hear Sharon. Can you all hear her? Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
It is truly an honor, and I'm humbled to join you representing the Heinrich Family Foundation, a modest family foundation, and to follow in the footsteps of my parents, past district governor and AKS members, Jim and Jan Heinrich, as we support Rotary and support peace building. You've asked a great question, Michelle. The most important skill for an effective peace builder. There are so many, but one of the first that comes to my mind is respect. I asked my father, he said listening. But peace building is rooted in relationships. And so I believe that when we enter into peacemaking, peace building, with an eye to relationships and respect, I believe that's a natural first step. And I'm sure we'll learn more from our Peace Fellows. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Respect and relationships. Thank you for that. And thank you for your support and your family's support. So now let's introduce Natalie Emery. Natalie is an alumna of the Rotary Peace Center at Duke UNC, having graduated from the program at Duke in 2019. She has over 14 years of international experience in the development and humanitarian sector, and she's currently based in South Sudan, where she works with the World Food Program, supporting emergency response and logistics to deliver life-saving cargo to communities in remote and hard-to-reach locations. Natalie, from your experience, can you tell us what has been a most useful skill or tool for effective peace building?
Thank you, Michelle. And hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thanks so much for having me. And it's great to see everyone here. As Sharon mentioned, it's an incredibly important question and difficult to pinpoint one exact tool. But I would say the two main things I would say are very important for effective peace building that I've used a lot is participation, recognizing the importance of including all stakeholders in the peace process, especially women and youth. And the second one is capacity building, providing that capacity building and training to enable peace building from learning and unlearning processes. And that includes mentoring, training, mediation, and so forth to equip participants, organizations, systems, and governments to break that cycle of violence and move into positive peace.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Participation, capacity building. Thank you for that perspective. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Juliet Addock. Juliet is an alumna of the University of Bradford Rotary Peace Center. She graduated from the program in 2022. She currently works as the center manager with the Millside Center, a community space in the heart of West Yorkshire City, helping people in need improve their lives. In addition to strengthening access to English classes and mental health and social support, she works with victims of domestic abuse, sexual violence, refugees, asylum seekers, and other vulnerable people often left out in society. So Juliet, what skills or tools do you feel have been most effective in peace building activities?
Thank you, and it's an honor to join you all and to participate in this virtual conference. Having worked in two or quite different and diverse worlds, that's the global north and global south, I would say one of them is adaptability, being flexible and understanding the environment you're working in, the stakeholders you're working with, the grassroots community you're working with, but also empowerment as a key tool for communities in conflict and who are going through conflict to be able to participate in effective peace building. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Juliet. And now for our last panelist, you may have noticed that one of our panelists, past our Vice President, John Matthews, was unfortunately unable to join us today. And in his place, we've asked my colleague, Peggy Aseo, the Rotary Foundation Director of Planned and Major Gifts, to share her insights on securing Rotary's legacy for peace. So welcome, Peggy. And from your perspective, what are some essential tools or skills for peace building?
Thank you, Michelle, and greetings to so many friends and supporters of the Rotary Peace Centers today. And my response comes from my work with Peace Center donors, many of whom are here. They all share the same essential skill, which is the ability to look beyond their established belief sets to encompass new approaches to conflict resolution. They are all different people. They have all different backgrounds, and yet is the one common thread in every single gift. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Peggy. Thank you for your perspective. And thank you to all of our panelists for taking time to join us today. I know our audience is eager to hear more from you. So without further delay, let's just dive in. Let me start by saying, on average, Rotary awards up to 130 fellowships a year for leaders from communities and from communities around the world to study in one of our global peace centers. So thanks to donors like you, these fellowships are fully funded. A master's degree program is offered at 6 of our partner universities and takes 15 to 24 months to complete. In addition to their rigorous academic studies, fellows spend 2 to 3 months completing a self-designed applied field experience. There is also a one-year professional development certificate program. And during this time, each fellow designs and implements a social change initiative in their community. The certificate program is currently offered at Chulalongkorn University in Thailand and Makerere University in Uganda. The 2023 class includes 52 master's degree fellows and 40 certificate fellows. This diverse group of change makers is 50% male, 49% female, and 1% non-binary, representing 42 countries around the world. With 1,680 fellows approved and over $84 million in scholarships awarded globally, the 7 and soon to be 8 peace centers are transforming seasoned peacebuilding professionals into the peace leaders of tomorrow. We are fortunate to be joined today by 2 alumna of the Masters Rotary Peace Fellowship. So Juliet and Natalie, would you please share a bit about your journey to the fellowship and what your experience has been like in the program? So maybe Juliet, let's start with you. What has been your experience at the University of Bradford?
I can say it's been a life transforming experience, and thanks to the generous contribution of those who give selflessly to enable peace builders or people that are interested in the peace building world make a journey that often is quite life transforming and never leaves you the same. Personally, I grew up in northern Uganda, a conflict affected area. Most of my life I've seen conflict and worked with victims of conflict thereafter. Most of my understanding and knowledge was a local context, and interaction was mostly with possibly international persons that have come either for conferences or attending conferences. But coming to the University of Bradford under the scholarship and the diversity of Peace Fellows has enriched my experience so much, and also given me an opportunity to now be able to work in the UK. Through my experience in the UK, I've had the joy of having to compare and also enrich the limited knowledge that I wouldn't say limited, but it was confined within a specific demographic. Most of my knowledge, I would have said, oh, I quite know about the Global South, but having to have this experience, similar context of people, but in a diverse society has been really enriching. And I give this back to the credit of the university, of the program, and also the Peace Fellows with their experiences that they bring. During my cohort, we had 9 Peace Fellows from different parts of the world doing different things, but being able to share our experiences, the richness of the University of Bradford's lecturers and the lecturers and the experience they bring on board expanded more to what I knew in practice and was able to see beyond what I knew in practice. So getting that academic aspect of it was quite key and crucial for me.
Wonderful, thank you. And Natalie, a little bit about your experience at Duke UNC. Any similarities?
I think a lot of similarities. So I was working in South Africa. I had co-founded my own nonprofit organization, which was fantastic. I loved it. We were doing we were providing digital skills for unemployed youth, high school students across the country. And it was growing. I had led it for several years, and I'd reached the point where I felt like I wasn't growing anymore. And I was really looking to get involved in a bigger response. And somehow, I don't know how, I heard about the fellowship. Someone told me about it. And I was very lucky. I found a Rotarian in Pretoria, South Africa, called Faith Bam, who supported me through the entire process. The application was quite rigorous, I must say. And she supported me throughout the entire time, really had faith in me, believed in me, and helped me through the application. And when I got the email approval, little did I know that my life would change completely. And since then, the fellowship keeps on giving. It took me from working at grassroots level to understanding the greater picture of policymaking for peace in order to have an increased impact in the work that I'm currently doing. I arrived in the US. I didn't know anyone, didn't know anything about the context or where I was going to be. And I had a Rotary family assigned to me. They took me under their wings, welcomed me, helped me with everything from setting up, but were with me throughout the entire 2 years that I was in the US. Not only were they there just for the needful, they also were there to encourage me when during the stressful times, even up to the point of bringing ice cream when I, pulled an all-nighter for my studies. These were Rotarians Bart and Cindy Cleary, who became my family when I was there. But overall, I cannot stress the impact of the way this fellowship is structured. We are paired with a mentor when we arrive there. We're given a Rotary family to help us. We have the center coordinators in Duke UNC. It's Susan and Amy who support us and guide us. And then we have professors who are truly dedicated to the cause of peace building. And that all together, plus added to, as was mentioned, added to having this cohort of peace fellows from all over the world where we discuss, we brainstorm solutions. That whole process, the 2 years are phenomenal. It really feels like it moves you from working, for myself at least, I felt like I was working in a pond and having a difference there. After doing the fellowship, I felt like I was moved into a lake or the sea, and able to do things there. But I'll stop here. Back to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's nice to hear your firsthand experiences, especially the connections to Rotarians locally there too. So the commitment of Rotary Foundation donors really ensures that peace building professionals have the opportunity and access to world-class education and a global network so that they can amplify Rotary's impact around the globe. And we're joined today by one such philanthropist who has a vision for peace, and she's here to tell the story of her support. So Sharon, let's begin with your story.
Thank you again, Michelle, and thank you, Juliet and Natalie, for sharing some of your journey. My personal connection with the Rotary Peace Centers began just about 15 years ago, but I really need to give the family credit because I'm the product of a legacy that really goes back over 50 years ago when my grandfather, Al Heinrich, invited my father, Jim, to join him in Rotary, as he had also joined him in the family hardware business. And I'm a third generation Rotarian from both grandfathers. My other grandfather was a superintendent of education for a school system. And from them, I learned service. I learned the values of family. And so along the way to my father becoming a district governor, he attended a zone institute in Davenport, Iowa. And he says, we learned about the Rotary Peace Center program from Eddie Blender and some of the Rotary Peace Fellows. It was like a light bulb went on. Later that day, we initiated discussion with the major gifts officer in attendance. And as a result of that conversation and that experience in September of 2007, he decided to invest part of the Heinrich Family Foundation, which came from the estate of my grandparents and their establishment of trusts, to the newly established Rotary Peace Centers. And they had particular interest in the Duke UNC Center, or as I sometimes say, the UNC Chapel Hill Duke Center, because I had attended graduate school in public health at Chapel Hill. I had left Ohio and gone to Chapel Hill for graduate work in public health. And so I had a connection there in North Carolina. I was still living in North Carolina, where I am joining you from now. And he invited me to join them as they explored this peace center and attended the spring conference in 2008, 15 years ago. Little did I know how my life would change as a result of the relationships, not only with the Peace Fellows, but also with those who join the Peace Center and support the Peace Center, those wonderful folks within the family of Rotary. And so as we learned more about the Peace Center, we knew that that was the place where we wanted to continue to invest. So it began with individual term endowments to support Peace Fellows. And it grew into an ongoing endowment that now funds a new Peace Fellow every single year. We have now been able to develop relationships and know on a first name basis 12 Peace Fellows who are alums and 2 who are in process. We know that that gift to Rotary, to the world, will keep on giving long after any of us are gone. It is truly a gift to the world. I will say this. One, as Dad visited clubs during his 2009-2010 Rotary year, he shared these words. I was reminded of them this past weekend as he shared them with me. He said, "Have you ever made a charitable investment and wondered if the money was properly used and there was a return on your investment? We feel that our investment in this program has been fully repaid and will continue to pay dividends in the future." As more and more of the Peace Fellows complete the program and rise in their chosen professions, we believe that they have a different potential to make a difference in our world. They are in the process of forming a network of present and former scholars that can communicate instantly wherever they are in the world. What better legacy can we give to our children and grandchildren than motivated young people that are interested in promoting peace and have the potential to change the world? And so that was written in 2009, and it's still very, very true today. We've subsequently had the opportunity and the privilege to have Peace Fellows participate in district conferences to get to know them better and to learn from them, and also to share in special events prior to the Bangkok Convention and the Sydney Convention, to visit the Peace Centers at Chula and Queensland. And so I will say, wonderful folks, a special shout out to Dadley, who is one of our named matched Peace Fellows, as we continue to see the gift that we will give to the world and imagine a future of peace building.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you to you and your family for your generosity and your investment, as you said, and commitment to peace, and your example of what it means to bring Rotary's mission to life. Peggy, now let's turn to you as a Peace Center's advocate and someone who works closely with donors who share a passion for peace. What inspires you most about Rotary's role in peace and the potential of the Peace Center's program to empower future leaders?
Well, in my 14 years of working with the Rotary Peace Centers, I have been absolutely humbled by what I've learned from the Rotary Peace Fellows and from the donors who support them. Like the Heinrich family, many donors have shared that their gifts have been triggered by their own life experiences. Many of our donors came from very, very humble backgrounds, some of them with violence and conflict. Others, more than a few, are Peace Corps volunteers. Maybe they were middle-class kids who went overseas and for the first time had to confront what it really meant to live without resources. The interesting stories for me have come from many of our donors who have military and law enforcement backgrounds. And their portrayals of having to confront violence and conflict in their daily work lives has always made me wonder how they found their individual paths to peace. And yet they have. And in many cases, they are the people who are the most vocal in reaching out to others to say, what Rotary does for peace is making a difference. Join us in this effort. Peace Fellows come from all over the world, and what I find interesting is our donors' willingness to support them, no matter where they're from or where they're working. When this program started, and again, this year marks the 20th anniversary of the graduation of the first class, the donors were primarily from North America and from Asia, but now they're from virtually every continent. The purpose of the Peace Major Gifts Initiative was always to provide endowment support for fellowships. When we started out this program, the original goal of 95 million included 90 million to help build the endowment. Today, the program has grown, and with that, so has the goal, and we have surpassed 193 million in gifts and commitments. 188 million of that is designated for the endowment, primarily fellowships. Some of that has been designated for particular peace centers, but the majority has been given by donors to use where it's needed the most. I find that an amazing vote of confidence for Rotary.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you for your efforts to connect our donors and members to this important cause. And thank you to Sharon again for your generosity and belief in Rotary to help make your vision of a peaceful world a reality. I also want to mention we've seen some really great comments in the chat as well. So thank you for engaging with us and your comments to our panelists. At this point, I'd like to dig into what this looks like in action, how these two Peace Fellows are helping to forge a legacy for women and peace building, and what role Rotary can play in peace building going forward. So Juliet and Natalie, would you tell the audience about the work you're doing today and how your time as a Peace Fellow has impacted your professional trajectory? So Juliet, maybe you'd like to start this time.
Thank you, Michelle. To start off, my journey, as I mentioned, starts from a small town, northern Uganda, Gulu, which is now a city. And at that time, looking at what conflict was and the participation of women. And when there were negotiations going on to end the conflict, at the round table, it was mostly predominantly male figures that were participating in peace building. But also when it came to later rehabilitation and helping the community rebuild their lives, when you went to peace building events or sessions, most of the conversations were around, it was male dominated. And I often got inspired due to my experience living in conflict, but also seeing the participation of women in this space and also youth, because coming from a community where youth are supposed to be passive and receive from others and not active participants in the process of peace building, I always felt like, there was something huge missing. So my work started off predominantly working with youth who have been affected by armed conflict, especially children born out of rape during conflict and children who were formerly abducted. And the first of it was research, just trying to understand from them, the first project I was engaged, how would they want to be engaged in peace building? And the key thing that kept coming up is we need our voices to be heard. We want to be on these tables of conversation. While we have had this tech shape, I still feel like it's a passive experience for most young people, especially when it comes to transitional justice, where conversations and spaces are often decided and their voices are not brought to these spaces. And this is not to leave out the women in spaces of peace building. Today, it's starting from grassroots. Still, even if we have 1325 and other resolutions that support that, the actual participation of women has still been limited. Mm-hmm. My journey to come to Bradford actually was to inspire me still, because I felt like I need to be a voice out there to carry on this legacy and carry on this work. And I met brilliant ladies during the fellowship, but also during the whole recruitment process. One of the key people that interviewed me was a brilliant young lady who is so passionate about peace building herself. And we kind of talked a lot about how peace building is in the different parts of the world. But key was coming to the university and meeting professors who have done a lot of work, especially female professors in peace building world, and also Rotarians who were doing a lot of work elsewhere, also who were women. And this enriched my passion to continue doing the work that I do. The context here is a bit different that I now work in. I work a lot with refugees and asylum seekers who are often from Middle East and African countries, and they're in the UK. But I can say we're organizing an event to remember the Ukraine war in a few days' time. But even finding women who are willing to come up and speak at this event is proving a challenge. And that still shows the challenges that we have in bringing women to peace building. All the volunteers that we have who are willing to come and speak in this space are male. And I feel like there's still a lot that needs to be done to empower women to come up and actively participate in peace building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliet. And Natalie, how about you?
Thank you, Michelle. And I just want to say, well done, Juliet. Amazing projects and work. And also thank you, Sharon, for everything you've done for the Peace Fellows and believing in us and trusting in us over all the years. So my Peace Fellowship had a huge impact on my vision of what is possible. As I mentioned before, I felt like I'd moved from the pond into a bigger lake or a sea, and having interaction and learning from professors, the Rotary Center guiding us, the other Peace Fellows, you learn about the global humanitarian situation and the urgent needs in many countries. We had a lot of brown bag sessions where other fellows would share their experiences, the challenges, and also their lessons learned. And there are quite a few about their experiences of South Sudan. And little did I know, I never thought I would end up, and actually I've been here in South Sudan for the past 2.5 years. I currently work with the World Food Program in the emergency and humanitarian response here. Over 2/3 of the population in South Sudan is currently in humanitarian need. South Sudan is a country that's affected by unprecedented flooding, by pockets of famine, and a lot of subnational violence and conflict. When I started working here, I realized that one of the biggest issues in the country is actually bringing these life-saving items or food to different locations, and working with different communities and national nonprofit organizations and bringing these items there. So currently I'm supporting the logistics response. I work with supporting the humanitarian community, so other nonprofit organizations, in bringing their cargo to these remote locations and these remote and very needy communities. We work through using air assets, river, road, and even canoes, or even having people carry medicines for this last mile delivery. We go to hard to reach locations, and my mission really here is to support organizations to do this. Not only that, what I've learned from being part of the fellowship was that you need capacity building at all levels, wherever you go. And currently I work in the logistics sector, and I realized since coming here that it's a very male-dominated sector. And in order to have a gendered response, most of the people we're helping are women and children. But if we don't have women making decisions of what items are needed, where and when, we're not really helping women and children to the best of our ability. So in light of that, I also co-founded a small network here in South Sudan. It's called Women in Logistics, where we are building the capacity of women to deliver, to work in logistics, to grow into leadership positions here, and deliver a gendered response in what we're doing. And I'm here. I'm doing what I'm doing because of the fellowship. The fellowship gave me time to learn, to grow, to reflect, and to apply tools and skills and techniques for peace building that are essential in the humanitarian response here. I was surrounded by amazing people. I actually met with Sharon, who's here on the webinar several times, who supported me and gave me advice, guidance, and what to do and how to do it. As I mentioned before, we had skilled professors, we had practitioners, we had our fellow cohorts, we had the Rotary centers supporting us. So all of this all together really enriched the 2 years that I was part of the fellowship. We had so much input, so much support, so much guidance that is leading and enabling us as fellows to learn, expand our knowledge, and then apply it in what we're currently doing. Yeah, I'll stop here because I know I shouldn't talk for too much.
We love to hear from you. No, thank you so much. Gosh, it makes me so proud and frankly amazed to hear about your work. And all our fellows are doing such impactful work around the globe. So thank you so much. Sharon, I'm going to turn to you now with the Heinrich Family Foundation. I know you don't have a specific gender focus in your support of the peace centers, but as a woman supporting peace, can you comment on why lifting professionals like Juliet and Natalie is so important?
Yes, thank you, Michelle. I think that Julia and Natalie have already addressed that issue in such a beautiful way. As Rotary continues to celebrate and focus on empowering women and girls in creating healthy communities within our Rotary Foundation's areas of focus, and to create positive peace through the elements of positive peace outlined by the IEP. It's so important, as already has been mentioned, that all voices are heard, that all stakeholders are able to participate. And so that includes the women, that includes the youth, that includes the men as well. Because if we don't have everyone involved, I don't think we'll have a sustainable peace. So I think it's beautiful to see those diverse perspectives come together as women and men, youth. We all have different life experiences. We all have different perspectives of peace and what that means. And so ask them and truly invite them to participate, not as a token, but as an active participant in creating the future that we want to see. And so I think that as we continue to hear from our Peace Fellows, I would be curious and wonder what kind of unique challenges or obstacles that our women peace builders have experienced, and how women can be uniquely positioned as advocates for peace. And so I will turn that to Natalie and to Juliet as you can share with us, and we can learn more from you.
So Natalie and Juliet, do you have any comments?
Yes,
Go ahead, Juliet.
yes. That's a quite interesting question. Just this morning, we were having a conversation with my colleagues about our English class and how predominantly the asylum seekers and refugees that come to it. We have almost a 70% representation of women. And these are people who have come to a new country, begin life, and learn English as a second language. But you find that those that have husbands who have come with, oftentimes they have a profession or they have ability to learn language, and the women are left behind. So it begins from what we say is community empowerment. The women at the grassroots are not empowered to, even if they move to another country, and this is not only in the context of the UK. I worked extensively with refugees in Uganda from South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, and most neighboring countries. And it was still the same challenge when we had a similar context of English language or just empowerment programs, and the massive need of women coming to these spaces. And the men were not there. So it just shows that even where they are coming from the countries where there's conflict, there is a missing space in empowering women to be able to stand up, represent themselves, because without speech or empowerment, you cannot come to this table of discussion. You'll always be at the footstool and sit there and listen. And coming from a culture where when we sit around the fire to have conversation, the women are asked to sit on the floor, on the mats. It doesn't surprise me that even when it comes to practice or policy making, this is evident. So I think for me, what I find is the biggest obstacle is empowering women to take up education, and not just basic education, but education that can transform them to have voices and speak for themselves and be able to do something tangible with their lives, and not only a reliance on their husbands or brothers or the male. Because in absence of that, there's nothing they can do. And we've seen in working here in the UK with this category of special people, I see how they struggle to cope because they don't know where to start from. And if there's a conversation around peace, they need to be part of it, but they need that empowerment to say, you can do it, you're part of it. So I think education is quite key for me in this, and Rotary is doing absolutely well in it. It's us, but then how do we take that to the grassroots and empower a woman down in a village in some location, make sure that adult, even if the ages have gone by, they can still access adult education or any other form of education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Natalie, do you have any comments?
No. Juliet, I completely agree with you. And I completely agree that we need education to really change the landscape of peace building. For myself, I was on the other side, more of a personal account. I started doing this kind of work quite young, and being female, being young, you often were faced with many people saying, this cannot be done. Maybe it was an attitude, or what, maybe they would just say it outright, say it to me, this cannot be done, you cannot do this, women have never done this, or girls have never done this before, so please just stop. And that was a challenge. And even when you would push forward to start a project or to get something happening in the community, when there was a roundtable or decision-making that was happening at this decision-making meeting, oftentimes you still weren't invited because you're a woman. And although it was tough, I think what this also just pushed me to continue going, to persevere and say, okay, we're going to change this. We're going to get through this so that the other women, people we're working with, can also have a place at the table and be able to speak and talk about what's going on and have a voice. So yeah, if I can give any advice to any other women out there who are working, just keep going. There's going to be challenges. There's still going to be challenges wherever we go, but keep going, because you're making a difference. And I had role models, and I was able to see other women who kept on going and were able to achieve different things and where they were working. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. I'm just, again, so inspired by the impact that you're making. And I'm sure, as you all agree, the work of Rotary and our partners has done to make peace a reality around the globe is substantial, but far from over. We have a lot more work to do. So in fact, the Rotary Foundation trustees have just approved Bahçeşehir in Istanbul, Turkey. I'm sure I said that wrong, Peggy, to host the next regional Rotary Peace Center, which is made possible by a generous gift of US $15.5 million to the foundation from the Otto and Fran Walter Foundation. And negotiations are underway between the Rotary Foundation and the university to reach a signed agreement in the coming months so that the program development and recruitment efforts can begin this year. So we're very excited about a new Peace Center. Now, I know we have limited time here, so we're actually going to move ahead in our program to our questions and answers. I know I see a few questions have come into the Q&A panel here at the bottom of your screen. There's a Q&A button. Please go ahead and add any questions you might have for our panelists today. I know you may want to ask them some questions. And as those questions are coming in, I have a few questions just to get us started. So let me start, Natalie or Juliet. This is for either of you. Are you I think you both mentioned this a little bit about your cohort. Are you continuing to be engaged in contact with Peace Fellow alums from your university in your community or globally? And how has that network continued to support your work today?
I can jump in and from my side, I was very lucky to have an amazing cohort from all over the world. And to be honest, we really got along. And right to date, we still have several WhatsApp groups. We have online meetups where we just touch base of what's been happening, what have they been working on, discuss different challenges maybe they're going through in their humanitarian response and their development projects, share experiences, share lessons. So we are in touch quite regularly through WhatsApp, and it's been amazing. Even when some of us are responding to an emergency, we're able to, just be in touch, get in touch, make sure everything's okay, support each other if there's any need. So from my side, I think, thankfully, we have good internet wherever we go. So that's been amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, I can say the same. My Rotary cohort, we consider ourselves family. We're still so much in touch. We keep updating each other on what's happening. We still very much keep our WhatsApp groups active. But the beauty of how the program at Bradford, and I would believe it's elsewhere, has also been designed, is the connections they provide prior to you coming to the university, to the previous cohort. I've stayed in touch with people I've never physically met, but they were supporting me, advising me on how I could come, the changes I was expecting and things to carry on. But also there's some who are there supporting professionally during the whole time of the study. So if you had any questions and you're stuck, you always reached out to them. The alumni has been quite important. And personally, since I'm in Bradford itself, I got plugged into the next cohort. And now the third cohort, I think it's the second cohort after us. I'm also plugged into them because I'm just a few miles away from the university, so I can easily go to events. I'm always invited to events. So yeah, the network is quite strong.
That's great. That's great. Actually, we just had a question come in from Brenda Cressy. That's a follow-on from this topic. So I'll just take that one now. So can you tell a little bit more? Do you continue a relationship with the district who sponsored you? And can you share how important their support was at the beginning of your journey? So thank you, Brenda, for that question.
Personally, I was sponsored by an alternative pathway and also the Ottoman Foundation, which they have the person that did my assessment up to date. We're still in touch. I think she lives in Spain, and she's been quite a huge resource in encouraging me, even in getting a job here, helping me with settling. And person, again, I've never met her in person. This has just been virtual connections through. It's been now. We were supposed to be a cohort prior to COVID. COVID hit, so we didn't have, we couldn't come to school, and we had to start in the middle of COVID. That was 2021. But since connecting with her in 2019, we just kept in touch. My Rotary family here, I call them my family now, the host family that we are provided with, they're very much a part of me, and they virtually adopted me to their family, and that is quite important to keep. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can absolutely agree with you, Juliet. From the start, I had Faith Bam from the Rotary Club in Pretoria, South Africa, who supported me throughout. We've been still in touch over email, sending a few pictures every now and then. My Rotary family in Durham, Bart and Cindy, we're still in touch, hoping to meet up one of these days. But from the club, from the family, the whole program, the structure, the structure that this fellowship provides is really about connections and networking, and we're able to meet. I was able to meet with Sharon several times, as I mentioned before, and just discuss what motivates us, why are we doing this and all this, and it's really amazing. And I think we're still in touch no matter where we go around the world, which I find is super important and also encouraging, because sometimes you're faced with challenges or issues, and you can always just reach out. You can say hi to someone across the world, and it reminds you of why you're here.
Great, thank you so much. We had another question come in from Charles Rogers. How do you feel we can promote our Peace Fellowships opportunities to qualified applicants? Peggy or Sharon, do you want to talk about how we promote applications?
I'll be glad to briefly address that. Prior to being invited to serve as a reader for Peace Fellow applications, I served as our District 7680 Peace Fellows Chair. And I think it was always amazing to think about the diversity of people working around peace. And I would consider us to look upstream. It's not just those people that are working directly in conflict resolution, but look at those people who are building the foundation of a healthy community and healthy society, not only in our own communities, in our own districts, but I would say look beyond the local. Because with the current structure of our Rotary Peace Fellowship endorsement program, as Juliet mentioned, we have the opportunity not only to endorse and support and nurture prospective Peace Fellows within our own local area, but also virtually around the world. And so I would say, consider those people that are creating a more peaceful and a more just society. And who are asking that famous 2-year-old question, but why? And getting to the root causes of those issues of peace and justice, who are working in the areas of our foundation areas of focus. And then I think it really takes a personal invitation. It takes identifying those people, encouraging those people, and walking with them through their journey. And I would also say that every single Rotarian can be a peace builder. And so as we engage in a life of peace building and exemplify that in our personal and professional lives, we attract others to walk with us. And I say the only reason not to become a Rotarian is if you're going to be a Rotary Peace Fellow. I've said that to a couple of people. So I would say be creative, be inclusive, be intentional. Anyone you meet may be the next Rotary Peace Fellow. And so making those connections and supporting people along their journey, I think, is something that we can all do as Rotarians. And I think as AKS members and Legacy, this wonderful jewel within our Rotary family, with the rest of our Rotary family and with the world.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And Peggy, as a kind of a follow-up to this, are there resources available to help promote peace fellowships and districts and clubs that you want to highlight?
There absolutely are. And the first place that I would send you to is Rotary.org. The Rotary Peace Fellowships website has a plethora of information. If you need additional guidance beyond clicking the various links, talk to a gift officer. They will get you in touch with the right program person in the Rotary Peace Centers, or you can always get a hold of me. I am always happy to help. But there are so many resources, both PDFs and information and various ways to help you reach out to people. We're happy to help.
Thank you.
Michelle, if you don't, I'm sorry. If you don't mind, I think it's one thing it's really important to realize for clubs and districts as they seek Peace Fellows is that there is no cost to that club or that district. That cost, that financial support, is made possible through our Rotary Foundation of RI. And I think that that should be a freeing experience. So for the clubs and the districts, they can continue to identify those folks and support them in their journey. It is extremely competitive. But I just heard on Friday, as we connected with another of our Peace Fellows, that she was selected on her 4th time. So patience and perseverance and support and connection.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for emphasizing that. That's helpful. We had another question come in the question and answer. I think this is Juliet. Let's see. When empowering girls and women is mentioned, many Rotarians consider this not relevant in places like UK, US, and Australia. How would Juliet frame this for Rotarians she connects with in England?
That's a very interesting question, because I think past even my time as a Peace Fellow, I've been invited to clubs to speak, and one of the clubs I went to was predominantly male, Rotary Club. I remember asking the question, where are the women in the club? And of course, it was quite. They say they have tried to attract women to the club, but it's not been possible. But then that is not only. I wouldn't say that it's only in Rotary. I have seen it in professional spaces. As a center manager, I go to events, I go to meetings, and you can count the women around the tables. If it's executives, you can still count. So it's something that personally, I would say, from my perspective, having thought that, I'm coming to the UK, all policies are quite high end, things are a bit different. Some things were a shock to me. But also it shows that this is not only a work that can be done in communities that are still struggling, but it's a work that has to continue all over the world. It has to continue everywhere. The empowerment of women has to continue, even the self-confidence. We run a youth group here, and the girls that come to the group, we try a lot to emphasize empowerment for them and them being active and taking up roles, because you see, even here, they're laid back. Bradford's demographic is predominantly, it's a mixed demographic. So we have people from all over coming to Bradford, and has a high number of immigrants living here. But you see that even having lived in what I would consider first-class nation, these challenges still exist, even to second, third generation that have been born here and have lived here and have had education here. It still exists.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we've covered all the questions, and I can't believe that we've actually, it's been an hour. It's passed so quickly this time together. So I want to thank you, our panelists, Sharon, Natalie, Juliet, Peggy, on behalf of the Rotary Foundation and all who tuned in today. We appreciate your time and input and thoughts. Each of you are just so important to our peace building efforts, and we look forward to achieving our promise to a more peaceful world together. The Rotary Peace Centers are elevating the world's voices of peace so that they can lead us toward a more just, inclusive, and compassionate world. As Arch Clump Society and Legacy Society members, thank you for sharing the belief that peace is possible, for putting in the work to help achieve our goals for peace, and for sharing in our vision of a better tomorrow. I encourage you to continue advocating for these voices of peace by helping recruit candidates for the fellowship, by tapping into the expertise of Peace Fellows and alumni when designing global grants, and by inviting Peace Fellows and alumni as presenters or guests at club events and district conferences. Now, before we wrap up today, I'd like to turn it over to Peggy for an exciting announcement and some closing reminders. So thank you all again for joining us today. And Peggy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Michelle. And if you're heading to Australia in May, please consider joining other donors, some of whom are on this call, for a unique experience in Brisbane just prior to the convention. Focus on Peace is a 2-day immersion program at the University of Queensland Rotary Peace Centre. We did it a few years back. Sharon Heinrich was there. She'll tell you that it's just a wonderful experience. You'll get a taste of what Rotary Peace Fellows learn in their classes, as well as a half-day forgiveness workshop for donors and Peace Fellows. I'm told that you're likely to enjoy the district's welcome barbecue in the company of, around 100 kangaroos. This is a small group experience that will give you the opportunity to witness the results of Rotary's investment in peace. To learn more and for reservations, follow the link in the chat box. And if you don't get that, feel free to follow up with me. I'll be happy to get you the information. So thank you again for taking the time to join us today. When you exit this session, you'll be prompted to participate in a brief survey about your experience today. I encourage you to do so, as your feedback is important as we evolve our virtual offerings. A recording of today's session will be available on demand, and you'll receive a link to view the recording in an email communication coming to you soon. So until next time, thank you all and take care.